What do you got in there? What do you got in there, man? What do you got in there? What do you got in there? Oh!
All right, so today we're going to deal with this police-involved shooting. Now, before we get into the video, I want to start with educating you on the law when it comes to police-involved shootings and how all officer use of force claims are going to be judged here in the United States. Now, if officers use force against any citizen or anyone in the United States, they're going to be judged under what's known as the objectively reasonable standard. And it's from the Supreme Court case Graham v. Connor, which you see the citation right here. And it says an objective standard used to judge an officer's actions. Under this standard, a particular application of force must be judged through the perspective of a reasonable officer facing the same set of circumstances without the benefit of 20/20 hindsight, and be based on the totality of facts that are known to that officer at the time that the force was used. And that is the Supreme Court's dictate of when a police officer or any state official uses force. This is how it's to be used to determine whether it is constitutional. Now, if a police officer's force was deemed not to be objectively reasonable or to be unreasonable, then that officer could be facing life in prison or some serious penalties. At least at a minimum, your job is gone. So that's the objectively reasonable standard. Now, how do you determine what's objectively reasonable? Well, the Supreme Court gives us essentially three factors that we have to evaluate. Now, those three factors are, first, what's the 911 call? If police are going to a bank robbery, then it would be reasonable for police to probably be expected to use some type of force to stop that event, or whether this is just like a cat in a tree, right? So the nature of the call for service of the 911 call is going to be the first factor that you want to consider when judging a police's use of force. The second factor is whether the suspect is resisting arrest. That's the second factor, because if someone's resisting arrest, then a police officer is authorized by law to subdue that suspect. So you would understand some force would be used. And obviously the amount of force the suspect uses then allows the officer to use more force. So that's the second factor from Graham v. Connor. And then we have the third factor is the serious threat factor. Whether the suspect is a serious threat to either the officer or other officers or members of the community. And this factor comes from another case called Tennessee v. Gardner. So when an officer is using force, any type of force, against a citizen or anyone else, these are three factors that the court said should be looked at to determine whether that force is objectively reasonable. And there are some other quirks to it, like for instance, is the officer following departmental policy? Because an objectively reasonable officer would follow their departmental policy. But these are the three standard factors that the court uses to judge officers' use of force. And this is the factors that we're going to use to judge this officer's use of force. Now, it's also important to note that any one factor can be more important than the other factor. So for instance, let's take serious threat, where the call for service could be a cat in a tree. The person may not be resisting arrest, but at any point the person pulls out a firearm or something like that and becomes a serious threat to the officer, even though the other two factors may be minimal, the fact that the person is a serious threat could raise it to a point where this use of force is now objectively reasonable. So keep that in mind as we now look at this video to determine if we believe this officer was objectively reasonable under the constitutional standards set forth by the Supreme Court in Graham v. Connor. So here's the beginning of the body cam footage. All right, so we can kind of see what's going on already. We have one car in the wrong lane. That's the one back here. It's in the wrong lane. So it's literally on the wrong side of the road. And this car right here has stopped. So now you have this car, which seems to be going the right way, versus this car, which is going the wrong way. And the officer's obviously, and he's checking it out to see what's going on. So the call for service here just seems to be someone who maybe made a wrong turn, right? This is not a bank robbery. This is not something that serious. This is somebody who seemingly has made a wrong turn.
Okay. Just how long you been here? Okay, I'll get him going. I'll see what's up.
The officer, Nick Adams, then approaches the parked vehicle. The woman inside, later identified as 46-year-old Alysha Duran, initially refuses to roll down the window. Eventually, Duran gives in and puts the window down, but refuses to answer the officer's questions.
Now, again, so this person is not under arrest. So our first two gram factors seem to be nothing, right? The call for service is just maybe somebody who drove on the wrong way, and you're going and knocking on the window. She's not really under arrest. This could just be an accident. She could have just, made a mistake and turned the wheel and just got mixed up. So this seems to be fine. So there's nothing here that seemingly would suggest that an officer would use any type of force against this particular individual, right? That's where we're at.
You're in the wrong lane. Are you okay? Are you okay, man? What's going on? Tell me what's going on. Are you okay?
Adams can be heard asking whether she's okay and calling in the situation on his radio.
Can you tell me what's going on? Why are you in the wrong lane?
Now, at this point, this woman is not answering any questions. If this was like just a mistake, you'd be like, well, hold on. You just made a mistake. It's okay. Let's just back it up and let's just try to get you in the right direction. Did you just turn? So who knows what's going on? This just seems benign. So at this point, I just want to make sure everybody knows the call for service is seems to be a nothing thing. And on top of that, this woman is not resisting arrest. She's not under arrest. It doesn't seem to be something criminal, maybe just an accident or an unfortunate error by the driver. Let's continue.
Can you tell me why you're in the wrong lane? I don't know what I got here. I got a female that won't answer any questions. I think I'm in our turn lane to go into the shops if you want to start one of them.
Duran only replies when the officer asks whether she needs an ambulance.
What's going on? Can you tell me what's going on, man? Please? Are you okay? Do you need an ambulance? Are you all right? Okay.
When he asks if she's been drinking, she reverts back to silence.
Have you been drinking or anything? It doesn't look like you've been drinking.
Now, that might be normal for somebody who has been drinking, maybe even under the influence of something. You'd want to ask them that question. If they stop answering questions, then, that's they have the right to remain silent, unfortunately. But now you kind of have to determine, maybe is this just a DUI or DWI incident or something like that, especially someone who's not being responsive, right? It just makes sense. So this officer, it seems to me, is just doing all the textbook stuff that you would expect an officer to do in this type of situation.
What do you got in there? What do you got in there, man? What do you got in there? What do you got in there? Oh!
Now, at this point, the call for service is essentially a nothing thing. The woman was not under arrest, but the serious threat to the officer and other members of the community went through the roof, right? She's now reaching for a gun after the officer's, there. Now, this officer, how is he supposed to know she's not reaching for that gun to do him harm? So let's see what happens next.
What do you got in there? What do you got in there? Oh! 225, shots fired, shots fired. Don't move.
Shots fired. All units, code 9 channel 1. Responding units, Sam 25.
Are you okay?
80 Lamar.
Are you okay?
When backup arrives at the scene, Adams removes the gun from the vehicle where Duran is already unresponsive.
I've got the gun secured. No response from her.
What do you need?
People downrange appear to be code 4.
Let's get her out of the car. You get the gun, I'll get her out of the car.
Yeah, I'm trying to do all that, man. Give me a minute.
You grab the gun, I got her.
Yeah, because obviously this is a stressful situation. This just seemed to be like a nothing, driver incident where she just essentially just drove in the wrong direction and it turned into a police involved shooting, right? She's pulled the gun on him. He's had to subdue her by firing at her because she's pulling. He doesn't know if the gun is loaded. He doesn't know what. If she's literally pulling a gun at the console after being silent. So, she may have a warrant. She may be, who knows? But I think the officer did. Essentially, it seems like the officer did only thing he could do at that time. And just for the people out there who thinks that maybe you should wait for her to fire, maybe wait for her to point the gun at you, that's not the way it works, right? You don't have to wait to have the gun pointed at you before you start firing. The fact that she's going for a gun, the fact that the officer's telling her to stop, and she's not putting up her hands, she's still going for the gun. This officer is allowed to respond in this way because, again, the issue is to stop the threat. And now that threat is stopped.
Just get that out of here.
I don't think so.
1025, 191 Sam, Robert Tom, 191 Sam, Robert Tom. We're going to need all of eastbound and 88 stop. Eastbound, we're going to be probably at Piers stop.
I got no pulse. All right, I'm securing this, man.
Copy. We have in Corvette and route as well.
I'm securing this in my car.
Adams then approaches the Jeep parked nearby, asking if everyone inside is okay.
Are you all right?
Copy. We have fire started.
Are you okay?
No one inside the Jeep was injured, but a bullet hit the windshield. Adams can be heard apologizing to the people inside before breaking down.
Ma'am,
We are on with the
are you okay?
Yeah, that's got to be tough, right? Because this lunatic pulled a gun at you. You're firing at that car, and then again, you know, you have these other cars who are downrange, and it goes through a windshield. That would have been just such a heartbreaking disaster. And I can feel this cop's pain, you know, that hey, he didn't want any of this to happen. This other woman needed medical attention. So this is a horrific situation. So I understand why he's apologizing, because my God, you know, and the fact that her windshield was clipped. It's another horrible issue.
I'm so sorry. So sorry.
Yeah, you can tell even the cop is breaking down. You can hear it in his voice.
I'm so sorry.
1025, we can get units at Lamar for westbound Mr. all the southeast.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She wouldn't talk to me. She had some like charm or something, and she wouldn't talk to me. I said, "Do you need an ambulance? What do you need?" And she reached into the center console, and I saw this gun. She reached for it, pointed it right at me. I was so worried I was going to shoot downrange at you. Oh my God.
The person inside the vehicle then identifies themselves as Jess, and Adams introduces himself, again apologizing.
What's your name?
Yeah,
Jess.
it would be horrible for that
You're
cop.
fine. You don't need an ID. Jess, I'm Nick. Okay? You're going to need to stick around for us a little while. I'm so sorry. Holy you can call anybody. I'll give you my work phone. You can call whoever you need.
We'll get somebody to talk to her. Okay,
Hold on a minute. I'm consoling her, man. I put one right to her window.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's okay.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
That's one thing too about officers who are involved in these type of officer involved shootings that you see it just happens so quickly. There's a mental component now to it, right? This officer, he may be one of the best officers, but when you have to apply force in a situation like that, you're shaky. There's post-traumatic stress and things of that nature. So sometimes you're in the job, but you don't realize that, you yourself are not all right. And a lot of times people don't realize the mental scars can be just as damaging as the physical scars. So this officer, I think he's doing everything textbook. He's trying to be super cop, but now the other cops are now letting him know, like, hey, we have to worry about you too, right? We need to make sure you are okay.
For this gun, I'm going to give her my work phone so she can make some phone
we have
calls.
two
She's
Arvada
sticking around
officers
for
going
me.
up. Do you want
All
more?
right?
Another officer approaches, checking whether Adams is okay.
Good? Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Come look at this, man. Come look at this.
Next, Adams introduces Jess to the other officer before making a bizarre remark about America.
This is Jess. This is my best buddy, Mark. Are you okay? Look, the steering wheel. It's her birthday. Oh, okay. It's America. God bless America, Jess. I'm so sorry. Oh, my God. Stay right here. Here's my phone, okay?
Next, Adams can be seen holding hands with another officer. I don't know why she said that was bizarre. I know it's kind of like, it's kind of said kind of out of, it's like, God bless America. I don't know. It's I don't think it's bizarre. I just think it's just like, like, why did he say it? But I think under the stress, the environment and everything, it's just like, I think the guy's just thankful that this woman is not hurt, thankful that he's alive, and thankful that, that this didn't go worse, because this could have been a lot worse.
Who appears to be comforting him.
Gonna take you to PD. Good, you need anything here? No, I'm good.
See the 3 stripes on the arm right here? That's the Sarge. So the Sarge is now on scene, and he's going to start letting people know. But now you got to get that guy, you know, obviously you still got your investigation to do. You got to get his weapon. You got to get everything, you know, get his statement. You got his body cam, but now you got to get somebody with him, because don't forget, you still got to take care of him mentally, right? He's just been in an officer involved shooting, right? So you got to now make sure your officer is okay, because again, this is a highly stressful situation for anybody who's going to be in it. And this woman that he shot is dead. He's just taken a life. So that's also going to be compound the situation too. So as a supervisor, you now have to recognize that, you know, we need scene control, and we need to make sure this officer and this woman who's in this car are all okay. So now it's a bigger picture now, and that's why the supervisor's here. Going to start now directing people. All right, let's make sure we get the scene secure, and we make sure these officers and these civilians are safe.
Seconds later, another officer instructs Adams to turn off his body camera video.
I've got the gun in my car, Sarge. You want me Mark to take the gun with us? Her gun. Leave it in my car? It's in the cup holder.
Okay. Let's look at me. Let's do this. Let's go off.
Off.
Duran died as a result of her injuries. As the investigation is still ongoing, Adams has been placed on paid administrative leave per department policy.
Well, I'm going to say it. Adams is a hero. Adams is an outright hero. It's a shame, but it's interesting to see how a simple traffic stop, right? Because, matter of fact, it wasn't even a traffic stop. A simple someone who just turned the wrong way down the street turns into an officer-involved shooting. So at the end of the day, you know, we had to go back to our gram factors. So I'm going to leave it to you guys. Was this officer objectively reasonable under these circumstances? What was the call of service? This was just, you know, someone driving the wrong way down the road. You know, was this person resisting arrest? I think you get there when you pull out a gun from the center console and point it at the officer. I think you're starting to resist arrest. But I don't think there was anything to arrest her on before that. But when you pull out a gun, then you get into the resisting arrest part. But I think here, the serious threat took over the whole scene, right? Pulling out a gun, pointing at the officer, you've now become a serious threat to the officer and to other people. And I think the way the officer responded with deadly physical force, she presented deadly physical force to him, he responded with deadly physical force. I think this officer is getting, I think, paid administrative leave. You do your investigation. But right now, from what I've seen, unless there's more to it, because there's always could be more to it, but unless there's more to it, I would believe this officer was objectively reasonable under the Graham v. Connor factors. But let me know in the comment section if you think this officer was being objectively reasonable, if you think this officer was not. You know, how did you come out when evaluating this police officer involved shooting under the Graham factors? My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.